Morning, everyone. Welcome to my studio. I'm just going to do a quick introduction to working semi-abstract. As most of you know, we're putting a class together, Varsha and myself, and to talk you through semi-abstraction to abstraction. Obviously, we can't do this in a few weeks or indeed a few months, so we're looking perhaps at about a year. Some of you will come to us perhaps a once a month class, others might come to a weekly class, but more of that as we go forward. What I want to do in a few minutes is to do a demonstration for you. Okay, so if I go to screen share just quickly, and let's take a look now at the images, once I can find them, that is. Screen share again. If we take this example here, just a humble teapot and a cup. With some imagination, you can create something else from it. The first thing to remember is keep the subject matter very simple. If you make it complex, you spend all your time trying to unravel it. Again, following intuition, here's a drawing of the teapot and the cup. You just trust your imagination and you do preliminary drawings to work up the idea until you're happy with it. Here's another version. This is drawn quite differently using another drawing technique, which again you will get introduced to. And then this is another one here using charcoal. This is superimposing. So it's just to give you an idea of what you can do to work out the idea at a preliminary stage before you even start to consider doing a finished painting. And then you can get color out. And as you can see, I'll start to do color with it. Right, this is the subject I'm going to demonstrate for you in a moment. A pair of old boots. As I say, keep the subject matter simple. Once again, you work out the ideas in a preliminary drawing. So let's assume I've done all that, and I've come to the point now I'd like to add color. So this is the first version done in color using watercolor. And once again, I might do another 6, 7, or whatever preliminary studies before I opt for the best one, and then to do an actual painting. So that's the screen share. Let's just pause there. And here I am again. Oops. So in a few moments, I'm going to do a drawing here, and then I'm going to add some paint. Okay. So I'm going to use the photograph here also as a reference. Here's the actual painting that I did, a watercolor. And as I said earlier, I could have taken perhaps 4 or 5, 6, or even 10 preliminary studies to get to this point. I might be happy to use this to do a finished painting, or again, I would work out the subject a bit more, which I'm going to do in a few moments. I'm now going to start using acrylics, and I'm going to be referring to this version here. Okay. I can also refer to the photograph or the subject in front of me. To get a loose drawing, I'm going to put 2 pencils together. Don't hold them rigidly. Just make sure you get the correct contact at the correct angle. There we go. You see, 2 pencils together. This will automatically make your drawing here very loose and more spontaneous, as opposed to using 1 pencil. So here I go. Trusting my instinct. As you can see already, by using 2 pencils, you get a loose drawing. Here's the toe of the boot. And remember, the last thing I want here is a tight drawing. This process is also enjoyable. And I don't need to do anything further there. Boot number 2 on this side. I'm referring to the printout here for the purposes of drawing it up. 2 pencils together, remember. And you can see how loose you can achieve the drawing. If you're out sketching, I would advise you to use the two pencil system until you build up a little bit of skill and courage before resorting back to a single pencil. But you will do it in a very short period of time. I think that's the drawing done. And then now I can let the paint take over. I intend to keep this very simple, straightforward, to hopefully give you enough courage to have a go yourself. So I've got the drawing there. Now I just mix some paints. I won't go through the colours because they're probably familiar to you anyway. At this point, there's always an element of trepidation. Where do I start? Where do I put the first brush stroke and so forth? But I find that once you make a brush mark, you respond to it with another brush mark and follow on from there. Now, I'm taking a very spontaneous, instinctive approach to this, but there's nothing stopping you from having a more carefully laid out plan, which you would follow. But I want to make this simple, hopefully to encourage you to have a go yourself. That's why we're going to keep the subject matter simple and the approach relatively simple as well, because your brain will be telling you to make a photographic version of this. This is why you have to build up a little bit of a technique, a little bit of knowledge, and above all, courage just to have a go. So I better just give the bottle of the paint a bit of a spray, if I can find my spray. I'm for convenience, I'm using acrylic paint. I probably prefer oils, but as I say, for convenience, I'm just going to use acrylic paint this morning. But where would I start? As I said a moment ago, it's having the courage to make that start. So if I come down the boots, there we go. And I'm still doing the blocking in process, okay? And I keep reminding you, trusting my instinct, I am not trying to copy this per se. I'm just taking little bits of information from it. I do here whatever my imagination will allow me to do. I'm still working out the idea in my head a little bit. I might do another 3 or 4 preliminary pieces before I'm really happy to commit to finished painting. I'm working on lining paper, so it's only cost me pennies. Okay, so I just keep working away. No particular plan in my head other than to trust my instinct. I'm still blocking in. So I'm going for the color, lights and darks. I've mixed a gray here. Possibly I could come down just inside there. There. Remember, I'm working semi-abstract. As I mentioned a little while ago, your brain will tell you not to do it. Eventually, you will win over your brain and you will start to do it more naturally. Still blocking in. When you get to this point, then the fear, the trepidation starts to disappear. Because I got something here now which I can respond to. So I just keep working away. I'm still referring to the image in front of me, also to the watercolor, which is pinned up on my wall here. So to give me further clues. Eventually, what happens is you don't refer to the preliminary work. You just work now as the instinct takes you. Now remember, I want to work semi-abstract. I want to leave just enough clues so that the viewer can make out the subject. And inside that group there. The subject itself is as good as blocked in. And then I can start to consider mark making. The light is coming essentially from above, isn't it? I've now decided to do something with the background, and I'm going to just use a grey. And I can bring it onto the subject itself. Remember, I'm working semi-abstract here. Down into the foreground a little bit. Now I want to take the whiteness off the image. But once again, the emphasis is on spontaneity, trusting your instinct. Now I've got everything blocked in, I can now start to consider and working a bit more slowly, as it were, to develop the picture. I'm starting to bring it to a conclusion. If I take a smaller brush, I can now start to suggest more detail. Come back there. Two other things I can now consider: putting the paint on more thickly, and also introducing colours that we don't actually see within the subject. I'm ignoring the little matte, the green matte. I have got green mixed here, which I'm going to use within the boots themselves. So, as I just said, two more considerations: bring the paint on more thickly. If I take the Naples yellow here, come back to here, there we go. Again, being instinctive with the stroke, but now I'm putting the paint on more thickly. That in itself will also make a statement. Back down to the burnt sienna, maybe here. Repeat it on the toe of this boot. And maybe down here. So as you can see, I'm working in a very spontaneous way, relying on my instinct. I've got to the point now where I feel, well, maybe I've done enough here on this particular study. I'm not going to spend much time on it. Hopefully I would have given you enough information for you to have a go yourself and hopefully inspire you. I'm just going to develop here a shadow reflection, just to anchor the boots down. There we go. Now I'm going to come in with a thinner brush and suggest detail. as opposed to being something very specific. Hopefully there's enough information here so that the viewer would make out a pair of boots. Then I can consider putting in the eyelets down here. And remember, I'm going to keep it semi-abstract, but retaining enough information to convince the viewer what's here. Then indicate the laces. And have them trailing, one there, another one trailing there. Similar story on this side. And then also trailing lace. This. The final thing I'm going to do here, well, not quite the final thing, is with white paint, indicate some highlights. And once again, just using my instinct. Though I often advise don't overdo highlights, otherwise they sort of take over. Again. I'm now going to bring this exercise to a conclusion because it's meant simply for you to take some chances yourself and to have a go. You will find that once you actually make the effort, you start to enjoy it. I'm going to leave it here. The only final thing I do, as you all know, take a mount and look at your attempt with a mount around it. I'm going to leave it at this. The time-wise, I don't think I've spent more than perhaps 10 or 12 minutes in actual painting time. I'm pleased with the result. It's what I set out to achieve, and it does come with practice. And this is my version of the boots, semi-abstract. And then in a few months' time, whatever, take it to full abstraction. But you've got to do this gradually. Right. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in class. Okay, everyone. Bye.